Hello, Craig.
Hello, Colin.
We are actually skipping the TNG Star Trek movies because we finished TOS a couple weeks ago, as of this recording. And I have not finished watching The Next Generation. I'm on season 3 still, so I really have to step up my game. So you suggested we actually go to the Kelvin timeline because you said, and I know you're right on this, that to not understand the TNG movies, but it helps seeing TNG before going to those movies because I would have that context. So I agree. So Craig, in his very infinite wisdom, suggested the Kelvin timeline, which starts with Star Trek 2009, which is directed by infamous Hollywood hack JJ Abrams. And before you say anything, Craig, I feel like I always have to reiterate to our audience: Star Trek Beyond was the first Star Trek I saw. And this was actually the second Star Trek thing I ever saw. So at the time, I didn't mind it too much. I didn't really care for it. But now, having seen TOS and liking Star Trek a lot more, I do not really like this movie. It has aged poorly.
Now, I want you to go back and you said my infinite wisdom.
Yes.
Well, I'd feel flattered, but my infinite wisdom told us to watch Star Trek '09, so clearly I'm not that smart.
Okay, well, it's fun talking about Star Trek, and of course we have to talk about the Kelvin timeline and the two JJ Abrams films. And this movie fundamentally does not understand Star Trek, and that is intentional because I looked at some Wikipedia stuff, and I'm sure you know this, and pretty much anybody who has been watching or listening to JJ Abrams' career, he grew up a Star Wars fan. He had no interest in Star Trek, so him and his crony writers decided to kind of take a Star Wars outline and kind of put loose caricatures of the Star Trek characters, and we get this kind of mess.
I don't know why people let him talk in public. He is horrible. Every time he talks in public, I feel like he embarrasses himself. He had the
JJ?
infamous, yeah, he talks about how he doesn't like Star Trek, even though he's directing the next movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's talked about the mystery box stuff.
Yeah.
I just think he should stop talking in public. Every time he opens his mouth, things get worse.
Now, to be fair to this movie, at least I will be objective, that this movie did, in a way, revive the franchise. Now, whether or not that's a good thing or bad thing, knowing what we know now, you can decide. But at the time, it did revive the interest of Star Trek because there wasn't a Star Trek show since, 2004? Nemesis bombed. Nemesis was a disaster financially. So this kind of did revive Star Trek a little bit, and maybe that was for the worse.
Looking back now, I think this killed the franchise.
Right, this is kind of the turning point.
It's again, I know what you're saying. At that moment in time, it seemed like
Yes,
they revitalized it, but looking back now with more perspective, it definitely killed the franchise. Nothing after the Enterprise show ended, I don't think anything should count for canon.
except maybe
Sorry, the show.
Beyond. But you know what, Craig?
That's fine, but on its own. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, let's start with some positives because I actually surprisingly do have a couple of positives. And then we'll get to our negatives because I have a lot. Just when I was watching this, I was just shaking my head. So I think one of the positives is that they very wisely made a decision to have an alternate timeline so they do not ruin the TOS timeline. That was a smart decision because they could have done the Star Wars route, which JJ Abrams ended up doing, and just ruining a whole timeline. So at least this kind of diverges and they can do whatever they want with the second timeline.
I guess.
I think that's a positive. I think they could have easily ruined anything with the lore of TOS and whatnot. And
They
my other
already broke so much lore in this
I
movie
I
already.
know, I know, I know. But looking back, I think that was a smart decision. My other positive is that this is kind of like a positive and a negative. The actors' performances and them just acting are good, but their characters are terrible. So the actors are doing a good job with what was given to them. Everybody says things convincingly, but the characters they're playing are bad.
Very bad.
Yes. Do you have any positives before we get to the negatives?
Not really. The one thing I liked was the theme, and
Yeah, Michael Giacchino does a great job with the score for this movie.
that's probably the only thing that I actually liked.
Oh,
Besides
I have
maybe
another.
some callbacks to the show Enterprise,
Right.
but that's more of me getting my member berries versus it being a good movie.
Right. I actually do like, and we talked about this, I do like the Enterprise redesign. And of course, TOS is my favorite Enterprise design and then the movies. But this was the first Enterprise that I saw for a while, for a long time. You know what I mean? I didn't really see TOS. I always knew of the Enterprise, and that was Star Trek related, but this was one of my first actual showings of it throughout the movie. And I kind of like the design. Even though it is like over double the size of the original Enterprise. This thing's, I believe, canonically is the size of the Enterprise D. maybe a little bigger, maybe a little smaller.
Really? I
Yeah,
knew he was bigger.
This thing is over 2 times the size of the TOS and TOS movie Enterprise.
Well, I know in the beginning they mentioned how they had 800 crew aboard, which I think the original Enterprise had 2 to 300.
Yeah. So let's get to some negatives. And
Everything.
obviously, yeah,
All of
everything else. Nero as a villain is one of the dumbest villains I think I have seen in a long, long time. And the movie kind of hand waves what he's been doing for 25 years. So if anyone doesn't know, the day Captain Kirk is born is when Nero accidentally gets sent back in time, and he that diverges the timeline from TOS to the New Kelvin timeline. So Captain Kirk's dad dies, and Captain Kirk grows up without a father, and he's driving cars off a cliff, and he's rebellious. And Nero, for 25 years, he wants revenge on old Spock because 129 years when they're adults. From that point, Romulus is going to get destroyed by a sudden explosion from a star, or whatever they call it, a meltdown, or supernova.
Should we go more in depth with that?
We'll talk about that in a second. I'm just giving the basic idea of what's wrong with Nero. So for 25 years, he waits around, which I presume is the neutral zone, correct? For the Romulans or the Klingons?
I don't know where he waited.
So he waited 25 years because he figured he would come out of the black hole at the same location that he did. And this guy, for 25 years, waits and does nothing to help Romulus, to help stop this supernova of the sun or whatever. He didn't do anything, and he dies with this knowledge. He is so hopped up on revenge. He is so stupid. And it's not like he came out of the black hole and he immediately goes into his action and he wants to destroy Vulcan. This is 25 years he's been sitting on his hands. How this got passed by a studio is beyond me. It is so mind-numbingly stupid.
He would make Captain Ahab blush.
Not even a funny stupid. It is like borderline, I don't know, it's below room temperature IQ.
I think you're getting to the negatives right there.
Well, the whole script is. But yes. Nero especially, rewatching, because again, when I saw it the first time, it's 2016, didn't really care. I think there's two ways to look at this movie. If you look at it as a Star Trek movie, it is absolutely terrible. But as a generic space adventure movie, it's okay-ish. And that's giving it a little too much credit. But as a Star Trek movie, it's terrible.
Well, I want to mention why he was sitting on his hands.
Yes.
Because sure, he was just a mining guy. He didn't have intimate military knowledge. He wasn't in the Romulan Empire as a commander. Okay, they give him the best argument possible. Even basic knowledge as a common citizen, he could tell the Romulan Star Empire about the Borg, the Dominion, all these other threats to the Romulan Star Empire, and he chooses to do absolutely nothing for 25 years. Could you imagine? Hey, there's these creatures called the Borg out there. We should be prepared to handle them.
Who assimilate people into their hive culture.
A decade before I left, we just had a war with the Dominion. We could have lost the entire Alpha and Beta Quadrant. They're a pretty big threat. We think we should start preparing for them.
Yeah, Nero is so stupid. And of course, he's got the big bad guy ship that kind of looks like, my comparison in my head was a Cthulhu-like creature.
Yeah, like a giant squid, right?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, squid. Let's go to...
I want to talk about that too.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. So it's a mining ship.
Why
is a mining ship from 100 years in the future more powerful than any other vessel ever assembled? A mining vessel today is not going to be able to handle a war fleet from 200 years ago.
I don't know.
Just because it's from the future doesn't mean it's more powerful.
I don't know. I think that's the least of the movie's problems.
No, it is a problem because they talk about how he destroyed so many fleets with that stupid mining ship.
That's true. Yeah, they did mention that.
There's this one mining ship can take out 47 Klingon bird of prey, take on the entire, I forget how many Starfleet ships warp to the location.
Yes.
He takes them all out with no effort. And this is a mining ship.
Right. Let's talk about Captain Kirk, because I like Chris Pine. I think he's a very good actor. He is terrible in this movie, and it's not his fault. The character he is playing is terrible, and Captain Kirk as a character in this movie learns absolutely nothing except lying and cheating and maneuvering your way to get into command somehow, and Starfleet rewards that. The Kobayashi Maru is about everything wrong with this movie because it's a reference to a previous Star Trek movie, and we talked about the point of the original Kobayashi Maru. It's a lose-lose situation, essentially, for the captain. And the reason why Kirk cheated is because beforehand he never faced death, and he never believed in a no-win situation. He doesn't believe in that.
I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
and he genuinely meant that. This Kirk, it seemed like he beat the test because it's like cheating on the LSAT or something. They kind of treat it like it's a very hard test. And he cheated on it to prove that it could be beat, but he didn't have any conviction as to why, like the other Captain Kirk, and why he cheated the original one. They just treated it like it's some mythic hard test.
Bones, it doesn't bother you that no one's ever passed the test.
Jim, it's the Kobayashi Maru. No one passes the test, and no one goes back for seconds, let alone thirds.
And that misses the whole point of what the Kobayashi Maru is. You know what I mean?
Yes, and the way he cheated, they didn't specify in Star Trek 2 exactly how he cheated. You're supposed to, at some point, use your imagination. But the way they did it here is completely the opposite of what most people assume that Kirk did. It sounds like he created a third option to win the scenario, not have everything magically work out, all the ships get disabled, and he can magically solve the mission. That's not what was implied in the
and it's
simulation.
So obvious when that he rigged the system or whatever the simulation.
Armed photons, prepare to fire on the Klingon warbirds.
Yes, sir. Jim, their shields are still up. Are they?
Yeah.
There's no subtlety.
Yeah, and Kirk got commended in Star Trek 2
for original thinking.
Yes, because he gave himself what I assume to be a third option, where he can actually complete the mission as opposed to dying, versus I was going to cheat and have everything just magically work out in my favor.
Yes.
So again, missing the point. Surprise, surprise. Kirk's a loser.
Kirk is a drunk guy from Iowa who hangs out at bars. And I understand that they're not trying to copy exactly what Bill Shatner did as Kirk, but they could at least take the traits of Captain Kirk. And what makes Captain Kirk Captain Kirk? He's not some drunk loser. He is a very competent, he is a very great leader who's mostly by the books. And we talked about Star Trek 3, and I didn't like that movie kind of created that misconception that he's a renegade and he's a rule breaker. Because that movie kind of did that, and Star Trek 4 kind of created that idea.
Let's get the hell out of here.
But for the most part, for TOS, he was by the books, he was a good leader, and he was charismatic. He's got the riz.
And he was studious. He wasn't some dumb jock. That's why the name Bones wasn't because his wife left him his bones in the divorce.
That's so stupid.
Got nowhere else to go. The ex-wife took the whole damn planet in the divorce. All I got left is my bones.
That was the
All I got left is my bones.
That was the old
Sawbones.
Yes, which Kirk knows because he is studious and he liked history.
And he's very smart. He's intelligent. He said he's studious. He's capable.
He's driven.
Yeah.
He's not just lucked into every scenario and given everything
Kirk
on
from
a silver
TOS.
platter.
I can't remember if they specified how he, like, his rankings and how he progressed throughout his Starfleet career. But the way he carried and conducted himself and talked, you could tell that he really believed in Starfleet, and he was a good cadet and a good officer and then a good captain. And I know people will say, well, that's the point. His father died. He didn't have that. Sure, I guess.
But then why have his father die?
But don't make Kirk so unlikable and so terrible. They say it's the younger Kirk, but Kirk in TOS when it started was young. He's in his 30s.
Yeah, I think he was the youngest captain in Starfleet, or one of the youngest.
Yeah. Now, Spock. I did not like Spock either in this movie. Well, there's so many things wrong with Spock, and there's so many things wrong with him and Uhura and that weird love story. There's just so much wrong with this movie.
Do I not see the problem with him being a teacher dating his student?
Well, yes, it is.
Usually you get in trouble for that. Well, even in colleges, you get in trouble for that.
Yeah. Spock is just so bad in this movie. And again, it's not the actor's fault, Zachary Quinto. At surface level, he does a good job with what's given to him, but it's not Spock. And of course, it's not going to match up to Leonard Nimoy. But this Spock is just so... It doesn't understand who Spock is. This one just punches people, and he yells, and he screams, and he's emotional.
I was thinking throughout the movie, I know you mentioned Spock. Mm-hmm. He had the rank of commander. Do they not know that at this point in time, Spock's not supposed to be commander, he's supposed to be a lieutenant?
I took over the Enterprise from Spock, served with him for several years.
11 years, 4 months, 5 days.
Guys, he was working under Captain Pike.
Craig, do you think they know that?
No, of course they don't know that.
Because I believe in TOS they said that, or Spock said, he served with Captain Pike for 11 years, and then he went into the details, like 5 months. 3 weeks, 2 days, 5 minutes.
11 years, 4 months, 5 days.
But he did serve under Captain Pike. That's
Yeah, for
why
a long time.
just these little details. But if a commander's a high rank, I don't know why he'd be teaching some dumb class at Starfleet Academy so young. Usually that'd be for an older guy.
Well, again, that's like the least of this movie's problems. Just how they wrote Spock and they treated him.
Well, yeah, young Spock getting bullied by other Vulcans for being half Vulcan.
I
know
think,
that-
yeah, you go first.
Well, I know that was a recurring element in the TOS, that he was always half human, half Vulcan.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seems weird to have emotionless robots trying to bully him. Kind of made me laugh.
Perhaps an emotional response requires physical stimuli.
Are you trying to get external stimuli out of me? They said, or something. Emotional response.
I don't know. I try to watch Vulcans bully other Vulcans. It's so weird and alien. Maybe that's that's the point of it. They just don't know how to.
Isn't that emotion though that they're portraying when they're bullying somebody?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I don't think Vulcans would bully each other. They'd probably scold each other, but not bully.
They're also a lot more passive aggressive with their remarks. They're not very outward.
Yeah, that's always the little comebacks from Spock to McCoy.
Yeah, and the eyebrow raise.
Yeah, fascinating.
I know we're skipping ahead, but I did think it was hilarious that there's some Starfleet regulation that Spock has to give up his command if he gets emotionally compromised. Like, that's an actual rule, apparently.
I mean, maybe historically that might be not obviously a commanding officer on a battleship or something. I don't know.
It just seems oddly convenient.
Well,
here's
here's
get a rise out of him and take command.
Before we get back into the characters, this is JJ Abrams' MO, and I know for a fact that we're not the first people to say this, but he is all about feelings. And nothing makes sense, but as long as it makes you feel good or elicit an emotion out of you, that's all he cares about. And that's all his movies are just emotion and not logical plot or plotting.
Yeah, don't think about it. Just turn your brain off, try to get something out of it, and then move on.
Nothing really makes sense in the movie. And of course, they have the super weapon, like in Star Wars. Everything's a super weapon. Nero wants to blow up planets. And I thought about this too. Elder Spock at this point, when he's on that planet, how close is Vulcan to that planet that he can clearly see it just get blown up? Vulcan's pretty big when he's looking up at the sky.
Yeah, like he's on their moon as opposed to light years away.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a coincidence that the planet that Kirk gets beamed to by Spock happens to have Ambassador Spock and Scotty, who knows the formula to transmit them back onto. I guess no one talks about that apparently Scotty discovers a warp theory to put people onto warp vessels. I don't remember that in TOS. I remember that in the movies.
That
it wasn't
definitely was never a thing in TOS.
TNG.
Yeah, that was definitely never a thing. Well, okay, so I don't know the official Star Trek lore, but I imagine when they're going warp speed, they're kind of entering another reality in a way. Because if you're just going super fast, you would smash into something and destroy yourself, right? What is the official lore explanation for warp speed?
So I'm not the expert on this. You might take my Star Trek comm badge away for not being a true fan.
Okay.
But my understanding is, one, that deflector dish kind of covers what you're mentioning. So usually at the bottom of the Enterprise, that little dish.
Yes.
That's supposed to create a force field around them to protect them from space debris. So when they move fast, little debris doesn't tear their ship apart.
Okay.
That's the one thing you mentioned. And warp is obviously pseudoscience. From what I understand, they create a bubble around the ship that allows them to kind of protect and go faster than light. I don't think they enter that's what subspace refers to.
Yeah.
Subspace is for communication, so you can send messages faster than the speed of light. But warp, I assume they're not entering a different dimension.
Okay. But at least you answered one of my questions, because they're not just going at least super fast. Because like I said, they'll just smash into so many things. And I hate the trope of their warping there. And not only do they get however far away Vulcan is from Earth, I'm sure millions and millions of miles away, they get there in like 3 minutes. And then they warp right into the action. They don't come out of warp thousands of miles away and assess the situation.
Arrival at Vulcan in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2.
Emergency invasive.
What always annoys me too, when they always, I guess in the JJ Abrams movies, when they warp to something, it's right in front of it. They don't waste a single centimeter of space. They have to be right in front of wherever they warp to. They can't be, usually in TNG or other shows, they talk about, we're like 25,000 kilometers away from the upcoming vessel, versus let me warp right up to the nose
Yeah.
of it.
Well, that's my point exactly. The other ones they'd come out of warp at a safe distance.
Yeah, to assess
And
the
then
situation.
because they're smart and they're tactical.
And they usually have sensors to tell them what to expect ahead of them. Not let me warp and somehow I'm not going to look ahead and warp into this minefield of wreckage.
I think one thing that was silly, and this is only after seeing TOS and even some of TNG, is that this Enterprise at the con, they literally have a window. And TNG TOS, the window would be a view screen.
Well, if you look at the actual ship, that they're at the top of it, that top of the saucer.
Yeah, I know they are.
Well, I guess I'm saying to our audience who, granted, if they are watching this, they probably saw Star Trek. But the point is, there is no view screen, like you're saying. They're at the top of the saucer and just a display screen. There is no actual glass window.
Yeah, in this one there is. And I find that so strange because they really wouldn't be able to see a lot out of that.
The view screen's more applicable. You can put multiple things onto it.
Yeah, magnification 10.
Also, it's like a Navy vessel or submarine where you're not going to be able to see what's in front of you. You kind of have to rely on sensors. But who cares? This is Star Wars, not Star Trek.
I will say, though, I think a positive in this movie, too, was Anton Yelchin as Chekhov. I thought he was great.
I mean, he did the accent, so that did give me a little bit of a smile.
Yeah. And I thought, honestly, John Cho was good as Sulu.
Those guys were fun because they didn't have much to do.
Yeah. I like the reference to fencing. Do you have any hand-to-hand combat? Fencing.
But see, but their characters are so poorly defined, it's not that there's less to mess up because there's not much there to wreck.
That's very
Other
true.
Characters that we know more about them, so people get more annoyed when they wreck them.
I think Simon Pegg was good as Scotty too. Obviously, no one's gonna beat James Doohan as Scotty, but I thought
why
he was
is
good.
Scotty marooned to some random planet that so happens to have Kirk and Ambassador?
Well, I don't
Spock
think
on it?
he was marooned. I think he was just working there.
Well, it sounded like they punished him because he lost Admiral Archer's
Oh, the
beagle.
dog. Yeah, that's right.
Because you didn't watch this show, but in Enterprise, Archer has his pet beagle Porthos on board. I'm assuming it's not the same beagle. At least I hope not.
Oh God. What else you got, Greg, for me? Yeah, you say something? Go for it.
Well, one more thing. They mentioned Admiral Archer and his beagle, but I'm surprised Archer would be alive because Enterprise takes place 100 years before TOS, so I don't know. I don't know what
Archer
would
is Scott Bakula, right?
be. Yes.
The guy that kind of looks like Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes.
Because I believe this movie takes place in I think maybe the 2060s, right? I know probably when it starts, it's 2240s probably when it starts, maybe late 2230s. But I think it follows the TOS 2260s, right?
That's what okay, so we have the number here, 2233.
Yeah, 2233.
So yeah, so 25 years later, it'd almost be, so they're a little earlier. Now, one thing I want to mention.
Yes.
People seem to praise the opening. I thought the opening was really, really stupid.
You're talking about Nero destroying the Kelvin?
Yes.
Tell me
again. We talked about the ship appears, and of course, instead of getting to any sort of safe distance, they basically drive right up to it and then get attacked. They seem to recognize that he's a Romulan almost immediately when they don't know what Romulans look like.
Because in TOS, I think that one of the episodes in season 1 or 2 was the first time they've seen a Romulan.
Yes, and they kept that in the show Enterprise. They still wrote around that, but the movie seemed to ignore that, probably missed that episode in their recommended episode watch guide.
Watch Space Seed.
That's probably all they watched. Space Seed, and can't even imagine what else they watched. Probably the first episode. Maybe.
Watch A Piece of Action. Quentin Tarantino probably watched that 100 times. What else you got for me?
Well, I wanted to mention the opening too, where they
yes, sorry.
They had families aboard. And I know this just sounds more like nitpicking, but it just comes off as really, really stupid. Families weren't aboard until the Enterprise D, or that around like 100 years later, and they have families now on the Enterprise or the Kelvin.
Well, what kind of ship was the Kelvin?
There weren't families on Starfleet vessels yet.
Well, I know that's what I'm asking. Like, what kind of ship is it in general? Is it an exploration ship? It's definitely not a warship.
Well, Starfleet doesn't technically have warships. Even the Defiant's not a warship, technically.
Well, that thing is.
Yeah, it is. But they said it's an escort vessel to kind of get around the fact they made a warship.
Okay, yeah.
They're not proud of it, but they did make a warship. But I'm assuming it's some exploration vessel. Anyway, family's on board. Of course, George Kirk's wife is about to give birth, and that's when the ship attacks. Of course, their son's born as that thing's attacked. Because Kirk was born on Iowa. There's a famous landmark in Iowa where he's supposed to be born. I know we're arguing about the lore of Star Trek. I just think it's weird to have him be born in space versus a normal birth in Iowa.
Well, yeah, that's true. And this movie glosses over, Craig, the fact that when Kirk was on some planet, that guy who was posing as a Shakespearean play guy, whatever, you know which guy I'm talking about, right?
Yes, the butcher of.
Yeah, he's the guy that destroyed and killed everybody at that colony, except Kirk and 3 other people. When was that in this timeline? Was because George Kirk died? And to be honest, I don't even remember Kirk really mentioning his dad in TOS, and maybe there was a lot of instances. I'm sure there were.
I don't remember it either.
I don't remember.
I don't think it
though.
was important. Like his dad was, I guess, a normal dad. It was not daddy issues.
Yeah.
Also, what happened to Kirk's brother?
Exactly,
Kirk had a brother. Didn't his brother die by that little ravioli
The pasta
monster?
bat. Yeah, the pasta bat.
Yeah.
So when we talked about Star Trek V, I actually looked it up when I was editing. I was totally wrong. So in the season 1 episode finale, Operation Annihilation is when Kirk's brother dies because it's those pasta bat things. And then earlier on in season 1 is when we find out about that guy posing as whatever the theater guy who's the mass murderer from that colony Kirk was on.
Was it
2 different
Kodos?
episodes. Yeah, 2 different episodes though, and I got them mixed up.
Well, you know they didn't watch. They definitely not watching the episode with the pasta bat.
But yes, Kirk had a brother, and the whole family was killed by those pasta bats too.
Where's Michael Burnham?
Ugh.
Oh, we can ask where's Cybok.
Yeah,
But
where is Cy? Maybe he was in the beginning in a blink and you'll miss it. Maybe there's something on Collider. And things you missed in Star Trek 2009.
it was actually his bully.
Yeah, one of them is Cybok. The biggest sin this movie commits is that it is not a Star Trek movie. And I guess it would be naive to say that maybe you'd want something that follows the Star Trek philosophy. Maybe that's naive by today's standards. It apparently is because look at all the trash there is for Star Trek. But this is just generic space adventure with lots of explosions, doomsday weapon, planets getting blown up.
Also, the idea of the need for an origin story for the TOS cast. This is a normal military academy. Why are they all on the same ship together? Because that's just where they were assigned to and working at that given point in time. There doesn't need to be this intense origin story of how Kirk met Spock, like it's some epic mythic tale. They just happen to be assigned to the ship together. They work together. They like working together. That's the long and short of it. And of course, they're friends, but we see that for them working together. It's not some destiny brought them together.
And that's the thing, too, that they don't even get the relationship right with Kirk and Spock. And obviously, I'm fine with it being turbulent in the beginning. But even by the end, do they even like each other? Spock almost choked and killed Kirk. Because Kirk was getting a rise out of him. Spock got him suspended from Starfleet for cheating on the Kobayashi Maru.
They're both great rage baiters.
On paper, Kirk should not like Spock, and Spock should not like Kirk. And Uhura should not like Spock and have romantic feelings for him because she feels bad that his whole planet blew up. One thing I liked about classic Spock was that he's always restrained. I think maybe we talked about this in Star Trek V or Star Trek VI. And with JJ Abrams, he doesn't know what to do with Spock. He apparently knows that Vulcans are strong, and they are. So he likes Spock running around and beating people up. But I always thought was so cool about Spock is that he could be, in certain situations, intimidating because of his restraint. He never wanted to use all of his powers. He only did when he had to. Because he was like beyond that. Beyond misusing his powers.
Yes, but we need people yelling and punching each other, and Spock punching people is exciting, apparently.
It is not.
But, for your top 10 references you missed from Collider, Spock had green blood because he's got green blood because he's a Vulcan.
Did he bleed in this?
I'm pretty sure I saw green blood at some point in the movie.
Oh. Maybe you're thinking of Beyond.
No, it was definitely this movie.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that.
I can't remember if he was a kid or if he was older, but I did see green blood.
Oh, maybe when he was a kid, when you had the
I, of course, clapped like a seal because I recognized that.
Yeah, Spock is terrible in this. He uses violence impulsively. He is out of control emotionally. TOS Spock is so much better.
And of course, we can't have our little Star Trek trio without the third pillar, Bones, who they want to replace with Uhura for some reason.
Yeah,
it's before she was famous too.
Bones is comically undervalued and not in this movie a lot.
Well, both this one and the next one, he's undervalued.
Well, yes.
Underused.
Underutilized, I should say, is the word. Because, as everyone knows, and we always refer to them in this program, as the trifecta. And they're all, what'd you say one time? They're all foils to each other. Kirk is in the center.
Yeah, Kirk's
Spock
the
is
center.
the logic. McCoy is the human side and emotion, and Kirk relies on both of them. What did Kurtzman say about Kirk or Spock and Bones? He said something incredibly stupid.
You probably have to pull it up. I don't remember it right now.
I think it was in our Star Trek II review. You mentioned something that Kurtzman just said was entirely wrong, and he misread the whole dynamic of Spock and Bones. What else you got, Craig?
So I just realized this right now.
Yes.
I forget Nero's ship's name. That is faster than the Enterprise.
Not Armada. What was it called?
The Narada?
Narada. Yeah, Narada.
It's faster than the Enterprise, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Correct. How are they able to beat Nero's ship to Earth if it's faster than theirs and he got a head start? Remember they ambushed them on Titan, or they hid behind Titan so they wouldn't detect them? How did they get to the solar system before they did?
I actually don't remember.
I don't think they explained it. I think they just said, oh yeah, we somehow beat them to Earth even though they're faster than us.
Did they beat them to Earth?
Yeah, they hid behind one of the Saturn's moons.
Titan. They hid behind Titan. I remember Chekhov explaining that.
Yes, but how could they hide behind Titan if the only way they could do that if they beat them to the solar system?
Okay, so this is what I think what happened. They hid the Enterprise behind Titan, and then they beamed onto Nero's ship.
No, there's more I have to explain. Remember, Spock said he turned the ship around to go to the fleet. So they were warping away from Earth in the opposite direction, or at least they weren't following Nero's ship. Nero was going straight to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So Spock wanted to go to wherever the fleet was.
Yeah.
Then Kirk says, let's go back to Earth after some shenanigans happened.
Mm-hmm.
So how could they get to Earth before Nero's ship if they were so far behind and with a slower ship? Explain that to me.
Well, I don't think they actually... The Enterprise didn't get there to Earth until they were destroying... Oh, I don't even remember, honestly. Okay, let's start...
No, they beat them there. They beat them there because they went to Titan to hide while they entered the solar systems. They beat them there, snuck aboard the ship, and then when they got to Earth, that's when they appeared.
When did they warp onto the ship?
That's because they were hiding behind Titan, so they beat them to Earth.
When you're saying they beat them, you're just talking about when did Nero's ship get there? I'm looking through the timeline. Just Sarah talking. There's Chris Pine having his face open whenever he gets punched. When does Nero get to Earth? I don't know. I really don't know. I think, and maybe you're wrong and I'm right, I think Nero got to Earth first. Kirk and Spock got beamed on board the Harada or whatever it's called. That's when Kirk saves Pike. They destroyed the drill. And then Spock steals old Spock's ship and flies away. And then he goes into warp and they fly away from Earth. And then...
No, Colin, I'm correct.
How do you know?
I pulled up the memory alpha. I was rereading the wiki.
Oh.
So yeah, on the bridge, they say we'll hide behind Saturn's moon. So when the ship is going on its way to Earth, we can beam aboard and they won't notice. So they beat them to the solar system.
Yes, you're right.
How on Earth could they beat them there if they had such a late start with a slower ship?
That's not important.
I know it's not important, but something I noticed, and I doubt the filmmakers would probably just tell me that to shut up and just accept it, clap like a seal.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. I see what you're saying. They didn't beat them to Earth. They beat them to Saturn, and then when they passed by Saturn, that's when they beamed them on.
But they got to the solar system
Yeah, I know
first.
what you're saying, though. Yeah, they got to that point before they did, even though they were comically behind.
Yes.
And oh god, it gets worse when you think about it, because Kirk was marooned for how long, and then the ship was already going the other direction, or the Enterprise was going the other direction.
And remember, they got to Vulcan in 3 minutes.
That is very true. They did.
So nothing makes any sense.
Because I always liked in TOS, not that it made it seem realistic, but it did make it seem like they're exploring a huge unknown galaxies that they would say, course to this time, 3 hours and 16 minutes, or okay, and then the episode progress and they're getting closer, 2 hours, an hour, 15 minutes. That made it seem more realistic.
But Colin, that's boring. Saying things could take hours, maybe days or weeks to get to, that's boring. Things can happen now.
I know, that's
like
that's JJ Abrams thing. It has to happen now, loud.
Like when Spock took the turbo lift from, I think, engineering all the way to the bridge in 2 seconds.
In this movie?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right, yeah.
I think that was clowned on back when the movie came out because there's no way the elevator could get up there so fast.
Especially in the new Enterprise, how large it is.
Yeah. Again, I don't think they thought out anything when they wrote the movie. Just here are some emotional beats to hit, and who cares what happens along the way.
Yeah, JJ Abrams is essentially hoping that he has the audience in a trance and that they really won't pay attention to the details. And in something like Star Trek, where it's more sci-fi and obviously more science-based, details have to matter.
Well, you take place in the world.
Yeah, they should be getting that stuff right.
And it takes place in the world where things have been established for decades, and they just throw out the window thinking, we know more than these boring nerds. Who cares about all this technology? Who cares about this? Who cares about deflector dish? That's boring. We want lasers shooting at each other.
Yeah, they want Star Wars laser beams. Even they turned essentially the phasers into stormtrooper blasters.
Yes, because if you watch the original shows, phasers are usually directed energy attacks, usually sustained energy attack, not shooting a million lasers into the sky.
Yeah, they're not trying
TIE
to kill
fighters.
people. That's what they
And the thing with phasers that you
set
can
phasers to
target
stun.
too. That and the phaser on the ship can disable sections of other people's ships, so they don't have to worry about killing every single person on board. They can disable the engine and say, "You're beaten, now surrender."
Yeah, well, I'm just saying they're their own phasers, the ones
That's
they
it.
carry with them. They treat them like.
Usually they said the stun, not
Yeah.
let's vaporize everybody.
I liked in TOS where it looked like most of the phasers was a remote. Like a remote
I think
control.
this is in every show.
Yeah.
They look like little TV remotes shooting at each other. It's always funny too because you can tell that the actors aren't really aiming; they're just aiming their remote, and like sometimes the phaser blast doesn't match the direction they're pointing.
Set phasers to stun.
Because I've seen it in most shows where they'll be pointing at it, but it's not the right enough angle, so it's like a little bit off of where they're pointing.
Yeah.
That's part of the charm.
This isn't charming at all, this movie.
Yeah, none whatsoever.
Seeing it more as a Star Trek fan, it's pretty infuriating.
I don't know why it got such great reviews.
Because I think maybe it came down to it's a shiny, glossy, fast-paced movie that feels most... It honestly borrows more from Star Wars than Star Trek.
See, I've got two ways you could have gone with this movie. Just scrap having the original cast. You're not going to be able to replace them.
Yes.
Not that you can't have other people play the characters. I just don't think in a movie people are going to be as drawn to it. I know it said that it made well enough money, but I don't think it was really worth it. What they should have done, after the show Enterprise was canceled, they should have put movies of the Earth-Romulan War. That way you can get your war, you can get the conclusion of the show Enterprise, you can get two things done at once.
I don't think they would ever do that because they're thinking general audience, and that's what kind of plagued the TNG movies. General audience.
But I was saying, if they did the Earth-Romulan War, it could have been maybe a trilogy. Again, I'm projecting a little bit, but if they had that, they could have had your action scenes. You could have had Vulcans in it, T'Pol and Captain Archer. You could have had
general audience.
But you could have had some of that general audience stuff, like ships fighting.
General audience knows Spock and Kirk and the Enterprise.
It is the Enterprise and Enterprise.
The NCC 1701.
I'm just saying, I feel like that could have been a good compromise.
I don't think that would ever happen.
In my world, it can.
In my club, you can.
So I know we brushed over this at the beginning, but the whole reason for Spock helping out the Romulans, he would help the Romulans, but a supernova would not destroy the galaxy. It also certainly would not threaten the entire Romulan star
hold
empire.
on. I don't know a lot about, let's say, planet life and the cycles and what stars and planets go through when they're dying. But I know enough that it doesn't happen overnight, these kind of supernovas.
Millions of years.
I do know that. Yeah, it takes millions and millions of years, and there's precursor stages before it gets to that point of a supernova. So
I remember
it'd be like a white star or a white dwarf star for millions of years before that would happen.
I think there was an episode of TNG where they just took the ship and watched a star blow up just because they could.
I've
like,
not gone to that episode.
Let's look at it for scientific purposes, blah, blah, blah.
But yeah, that's the point, is that this is a multi-100 million years maybe process, and it happens out of the blue. And they could have made up any excuse that maybe some kind of thing happened at the maybe they're mining down there and they messed up the core of the planet. Anything like that, something that is some kind of geological catastrophe that could ruin the planet. Sure.
Like Star Trek 6.
Yes, exactly, like the Praxis. But a supernova just sounds so silly.
And the fact the
Romulan
Empire, like most empires, is not just one single planet. They have colonized probably thousands of planets with the Romulans on them. Their home planet getting destroyed would not be great, but they have so many other planets they could relocate to if they had to. Yeah. Also, they didn't mention Remus.
I don't think they know what that is in Star Trek.
I don't think they know who the mythological Remus is either.
This is probably true also. And that kind of goes back again. Nero knows this, and he does nothing with his information.
No, don't clone Captain Picard. It's not going to work out.
Well, okay. This is a side tangent. So I guess in all timelines, right? Romulus gets destroyed anyway, because I believe they mentioned that in Picard, the TV show.
Yeah, that was a major plot point, and it's a really dumb plot point. So it's technically supposed to be canon,
Which
but
is
I don't
lame.
think it is incredibly lame. Especially, I know you've never seen Deep Space Nine. I reference a lot because it's my favorite Star Trek show. But at the end of that show, there was a major war that went on throughout the entire Alpha Quadrant. It left the Cardassians in shatters. Klingons, they said, needed decades to rebuild their armies and get up to a high standard. And the only two powers left were the Romulans and the Federation. So you were hoping going forward the Romulans could have played a bigger role or bigger antagonistic role in the future of the quadrants. But they just blow up their empire and they're basically written off, so that's great.
Jeez. They really did the
That's also-
Romulans dirty in this.
That's also why it annoys me, because where the situation left off, those are the two powers left, so you're hoping, wow, maybe we could finally get more conflict with the Romulans and the Federation. Because the Romulans always like to be in the shadows, just doing annoying things, trying to get you to break treaties so they can attack you and hide behind their treaties and legislation.
They're sneaky, those Romulans.
They were. Until this guy shows up with the big giant octopus mining ship and blows up planets.
Blows up Vulcan with his red goo, the red liquid they called it.
Red matter, no one knows what that is.
Well, I'm sure they made that up. I'm sure that has no scientific basis.
Also, Vulcan's a core Federation planet. I'm pretty sure they would have had better defenses.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that it just seems like this giant ship just shows up and then just drops this thing down there. I don't know, it seems a little silly. Well, I guess, okay, before you continue, when they do warp right in front of the ship, there are a bunch of destroyed fleets already. So I guess that, in their mind, that's the Vulcan defense, which is really pathetic if that's the case.
Well, I guess that was the other Starfleet ships, but you just think that'd be a little better defended.
Yeah. What else you got?
I really love Orsi and Kurtzman. I really love them.
No, you don't. You're being facetious. It'd be funny if Paramount Plus re-releases, let's say, the 15th anniversary. No, I think we passed that, right? Oh my god, we did pass the 15th anniversary. No, I was going to say, for the 20th anniversary for Star Trek 2009, let's say, when they re-release it and they remaster it for Paramount Plus, they add in, what's her name? Michael Burnham?
More lens flares? Oh.
They insert her digitally in the background of some shots so they could be like, listen, look, she's been here the whole time.
Well, if they just superimpose her over Captain Kirk.
Oh, well, that'd be terrible. Is that her real name is Michael Burnham?
Yeah, don't ask questions. No one understands why they made any of these decisions.
When you were, I don't know. Okay.
Also, did you know that? I think, I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but they set the Star Trek Discovery show, I think after the second season, the next 3 or 4 seasons took place in the year 3000 or something. I guess what? They felt really, it seems like they felt really constrained by the time of what they were writing the show, and so they just put the show 800 years into the future.
How? Like, it just took place in?
They probably went forward in time.
Oh, okay.
But it's just funny how, like, yeah, let's just go take place in the future. Who cares?
Let's not talk about that filth.
Well, I'm expanding my knowledge. I'm sharing it.
I don't want to hear it.
Well, you're going to.
No.
And you have to do the research when we talk about stuff. So you put in
that's always the most annoying thing, when you tell me these crazy things that I have to look up. By far, and then we'll go back to Star Trek. When we did the War of the Rohirrim, when you were quoting the passages, I had to pull up the appendices, The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, to find your quotes.
Well, I was quoting word for word what they had.
I know, it was so annoying. I had to find a digital copy online of the book because it's not in the public domain. I had to screen record or screenshot it. All right, anyway, let's go back to the movie.
We exist to make your life more difficult.
Yeah. Lots of lens flares in this movie, too. Very distracting.
Well, this started the whole meme about lens flares, how they were just like, how could you see on the ship with your eyes getting assaulted by that light, right, going to your cornea?
They would need those special glasses for when there's eclipses out there. That's what they would need.
I just can't imagine all those lens flares. Like, who thought that was a good idea? The future, sure, it's optimistic, and even in the original series, most of the sets were white, but they weren't blinding.
Yeah. They were very, I want to say modern, but they were very, like you said, basic, kind of plain, but look clean. This is like overly bright.
Looks like you're in the Apple Store.
Someone turned up the brightness on the screen. You can't really see anything. Like, at face value, I think JJ Abrams is an okay-ish action director. But the problem is he sticks his fingers in the story and he just fundamentally ruins the stories. because he's too hopped up on nostalgia and he's too hopped up on references, and he has a breakneck pace where nothing can breathe. We can't explain anything that helps makes the story make sense.
I think you're giving him too much credit. The story's written by Kurtzman and Orsi. I don't think
he definitely has his fingers in there.
Yes, but let's not act like those guys gave him a good story.
They did not, and JJ Abrams has shown that even when he has a hand in the story, he's still not very good, because we have 2 Star Wars movies worth of that. But yeah, Kurtzman and Orsi, they wrote a pretty terrible script, honestly. Objectively speaking, not even looking at it from a Star Trek lens. It is an objectively terrible script, because villain makes no sense, nothing's really explained, and going back to the villain, he is terrible, has very weak motivation, and they don't explain what he's doing, really. He's there for 25 years and they kind of hand wave it like, oh, yeah. Waiting for 25 years. That's a long time.
just for revenge.
Yeah.
Like we said, he could have been so much more productive, but decides to be... What was he doing? Just sitting in a ship 25 years? I'm really curious.
What
could he have been doing for 25 years?
Not helping his race, I'll tell you that.
I can't imagine if someone told me, yeah, just sit there in your house for 25 years and don't talk to a single soul, even though you could help change the lives of your entire empire's history.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. No big deal.
And it wasn't like he was trying to follow the rules of time travel, like what Star Trek 4 just completely ignored. Where if you go back in time, you don't want to ruin anything. You don't want to create chain of events that would alter everything. No, he doesn't care. He just sits around waiting for Spock to appear sometime later. And who knows, because the black hole is unpredictable, he could have been waiting 30 years, 50 years. He could have died and then Spock comes out.
Could you imagine if he was off by an hour? He's like, oh, Spock's not here. Let's go somewhere else. And then Spock appears and he just misses him. So his whole 25 years of waiting was worthless.
Well, it'd be even funnier if it goes into 100 years and he just has the ship parked there. And then as in his dying breath, he's about to die, Craig, and he's closing his eyes, and then Spock comes out.
Then Spock gets really mad and starts beating them up and uses the red matter to detonate their ship.
Okay, I think one of the last things we'll talk about. The weirdest thing is when he gets revenge on Spock, why? It wasn't like Spock caused this black hole to eat up your planet. He tried to stop it. So why are you getting revenge on the guy who was trying to help?
It doesn't make sense. And the Romulans aren't like the Klingons where you could see them being dumb brutes. The Romulans, like we keep mentioning, are more intelligent.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're more intelligent and secretive. So I don't think most Romulans would have reacted like this. And they try to say, well, he was working on a mining ship. So?
They probably would have said, I'm upset that our planet got destroyed, but I'm not going to take it out on you because you're trying to help. It seemed like he was the only one trying to help.
Well, the real person whose fault it was Picard.
What did he do?
Oh, in the Picard show, some people were blaming Picard for the Romulans not getting evacuated or something.
No!
Oh, that's such garbage. Who cares?
Oh, it was so stupid, but...
We're not talking about that. Yeah.
It's all your fault, Picard.
That's so stupid. But yeah, why take it out on Spock? He didn't do anything to warrant this level of vindictiveness.
Let me try to save your planet. And I failed, so you're going to genocide 6 billion people?
Yeah,
I guess that makes sense.
That's like trying to kill a first responder's family because they couldn't save little Timmy who was in a horrible car crash or something.
That's not killing his family. That's genociding his country for
that's genociding a whole state of first responders. It makes no sense. It has no motivation.
Even the Klingons reacted like a regular person when their head of state died, when they thought Bones killed them. They put them on trial and threw them in a prison, as opposed to genociding everyone on Earth.
God, if that was Nero, that was related to Chancellor Gorkin, he would have killed all of Earth.
Like every single Federation planet. He goes, that's fair.
And then he wanted to destroy Starfleet because, and he specifically said he does not answer to the Romulan Empire. So his views don't reflect the traditional Romulan. So why did he want to destroy Earth after Vulcan?
That's also a lame cop-out. I don't represent the Romulan Empire. Where you're a Romulan committing acts of war against the Romulans' enemies. That's not really a good justification for your actions.
It's just so half-baked, this whole script. It's terrible. Nero is just god-awful. He is really bad. The more and more you think about it, he is awful. Dare I say, because we're going to be talking about Star Trek Into Darkness, I think Nero might be worse than Khan version 2.
Well, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. I don't think you're getting a winner with either one.
But I have to rewatch Star Trek Into Darkness again because I probably haven't seen it in a while. But when I first saw this movie, that was okay. But my God, has this aged horribly?
People still defend it. People will sit there and say, "I don't see why people don't like this movie." Like, did you not watch it?
Yeah, it's a terrible script.
I know when people watch movies these days, they're typically on their phones, so maybe they weren't noticing all the flaws.
This is 2009.
I'm talking about now. When people
Yeah.
say rewatch it now, they say, "Oh, it wasn't that bad." Were you watching it, or were you on your phone?
Yeah, this was almost 17 years ago, right? Yeah. But Craig, do you have any other final thoughts about Star Trek 2009?
This was an odd number movie, and it was pretty bad, so it kind of fits.
Yeah, but Star Trek Into Darkness is even, and that's garbage too. That means nothing.
I know. It only really applies to the original trilogy, or the original 6 movies.
Yeah, well, because the Generations ones aren't really good. I have not seen the Generations movies in a while. I think when I rewatch them after TNG, I think I might appreciate them more than these two Abrams movies. I'm sure maybe those make more sense than this.
Oof.
We'll see, though. I have to rewatch them after TNG. But I'll summarize my points, Craig, unless you have anything else to add for this movie, our discussion.
It's just really bad. I don't think, obviously it's a bad Star Trek movie.
Uh-huh.
I don't think it even fits a regular science adventure movie. I don't think it's exciting
It
enough.
is a space adventure. It's not even a science fiction.
That's what I meant. Space adventure movie. It's not even good enough for that.
Yeah, it is incoherent to say the very least. Nothing makes a lot of sense in this movie. The characters aren't well done. Nero is god-awful. The script is terrible. Actors are good, but they're playing terrible characters. And the original characters from TOS are famous and iconic. I should say really 3 of them are famous and iconic for a reason. And you don't have to make the younger versions of them so angsty and so wild and nothing like their original great characters. There's nothing wrong with having a studious young Captain Kirk. He's not some drunk guy in Iowa going to dive bars. Yeah, he gets with girls. That's Captain Kirk. Yeah. Like, that really wasn't the Shatner Kirk.
Like I mentioned before, it doesn't even make sense for a movie to exist. These guys don't come together because it's destiny. Like we're having the Knights of the Round Table coming together. This is just people working together.
Yeah, they just form close relationships because they work together for a long time, not because destiny brought them.
Yes, so the fact they turn this into some
and
epic adventure.
That's the Star Wars way of thinking. Everything is destiny. That's not Star Trek.
I agree, but they weren't writing a Star Trek movie.
No, I think I saw on Wikipedia before I rewatched the movie where Kurtzman and Orsi, they were inspired by Han Solo for certain characters in this movie. It's like, oh my God.
Certain characters?
Maybe it was Spock or Kirk. It was like, oh my God, you're adapting Star Trek. And I know this is JJ Abrams' way of being a highlight reel for Star Wars, but my God.
Do people not watch other TV shows? I feel like everyone says, oh, I'm this character from Star Wars is my inspiration. Is it just an Extreme Arrested Development in Hollywood or something?
I guess so. But yeah, this is a terrible Star Trek movie. Not even really a good movie. I'm kind of baffled by the really good reviews. Very shocked, to say the least.
I'm also shocked. I do not think it's good.
Fascinating. So, Craig, would you recommend Star Trek 2009?
No.
I would not. I think if you are easily manipulated by visual stimuli, maybe you'd like it from all the explosions and lens flares, but as a movie, as a movie, it's not very good. As a Star Trek movie, it is abysmal.
Do not watch it.
Do not watch it. It is a very skippable movie. And we will be talking about Star Trek Into Darkness next. So, Craig, with all that being said, this has been the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. I'm Colin.
I've been Craig.
And we will see you next time.
Let's get the hell out of here.